Hey, it's Andrew Huang. ALM Busy Circuits wins the award for packaging of the year, and it's only February, and that's not a real award. But just look at this. Nice clean design, this cardboard sleeve, and then this beautiful white box. Reading materials, and there's the module. AKEMIE'S TAIKO. And then how about this dual offset attenuverter? It's just so adorable to put a module in a tube. Satisfying. Dope. I know it's not a huge deal, but it's nice when care and thought has clearly been put into packaging when usually modules come in these nondescript cardboard boxes. And I get it, this stuff is expensive. Let's save money wherever we can. Let's not pay a graphic designer. Let's not use any special materials. Just wrap everything in newspaper and stick it in the mail. So let me show you what the deal is with this module, and then we'll patch up some wacky space beats with it. AKEMIE'S TAIKO is a somewhat unpredictable percussion synthesizer, although it can be used for tuned sounds, so you can totally use it for a lead or a bass too if you want. It uses FM synthesis, which if you need a quick explainer on what that is, check out my recent What the F is FM Synthesis. What I love about this module is that it puts you in a place where you'll have a lot of happy accidents and inspiration. Due to how it's set up and the nature of FM synthesis, a little knob tweak here and there will radically transform the sound it produces. So let's check out these knobs. The first parameter we'll look at is frequency start, which is actually two knobs. There's a coarse tuning, and then fine tuning, this little one. So that's obviously just changing the pitch of your sound. Frequency end is an interesting one because it has no effect if speed is turned all the way down. But by putting speed a little bit past 9 o'clock, frequency end starts to tell the frequency where to end up. And this is something that mimics the behavior of real drums. If you hit a drum skin, it will very quickly go from a fast vibration to a slower vibration, which is why you get that doo sound. Slowing that down, it's like doo. So you can hear, with my awful mouth example, that the pitch goes from higher to lower. An interesting thing with AKEMIE'S TAIKO, though, is you can set the frequency end higher than the frequency start, leading to weird effects like that, where the pitch goes up over the course of the drum hit. So the speed knob is the time it takes to go from your start frequency to your end frequency, but it'll also loop. So if you turn the speed really high, that's the sound of it going start, end, start, end, start, end really quickly. So if I adjust these release times, you can hear that those start to end frequencies loop over and over for as long as the release times are set for. The reason why there are two release knobs is because they each control different oscillators, or sometimes different combinations of oscillators. Those oscillators are controlled by the algorithm and waves knob. Waves scrolls between 64 different combinations of waveforms, and the algorithm knob goes between 6 different algorithms of how those waveforms modulate each other, which is the basis of frequency modulation synthesis. The ratio knob sets the relationship between the two different pairs of oscillators that are controlled by release 1 and 2. So if I go back to a more normal sounding tone, as you can hear, there are 2 different notes being played at a time depending on how the ratio is set. So those combinations of oscillators modulating each other when you get into some more extreme settings here are what create the crazy percussion sounds. The final knob, feedback, makes one of the oscillators modulate itself. So that usually just introduces some noisy artifacts. And it does depend on the other settings, which determine other kinds of modulations as well, of course. But noise is one of the things that can really help make certain types of drum sounds. AKEMIE'S TAIKO has one output, which is for the audio, and all these other patch points are for controlling the parameters we were just talking about. These handy lines show which parameters correspond with which inputs. It's pretty easy. And 3 of them have these little attenuverter knobs so you can control the amount of the signal that's coming in as well as inverting it. Lastly, you trigger sounds with the trigger input. You have accent, which is like a stronger trigger, and then choke will stop the sound no matter where it is, even if you've got a really long release setting. So I want to show you a few pieces of music where I'm using taiko in different ways, and then I'm going to do something that a lot of you have been asking for, which is to patch something completely from scratch within this video and walk you through what that process is like for me. So I'm gonna take a bit of a risk now. I'm gonna patch something from scratch, and I have no idea what exactly is gonna happen. I don't have any plan other than starting with AKEMIE'S TAIKO for this video about AKEMIE'S TAIKO. And I've put a collection of modules in my case right now that I think will lead to some interesting results, but again, no plan. So let's start by sending taiko to the Zlob Unicursal VCA, which I use as a really great little 6-channel mixer. And then that will go out to our main output. I like Variegate as a sequencer. I'm gonna just set up a pattern with a lot of unpredictability actually in it. So these sliders represent 16 steps in a sequence, and how far across you slide each one indicates the probability that that step will fire a trigger. So all the way over to the right means that it'll fire 100% of the time. If you go about halfway, it's like 50% of the time, and to the left is off. So something I like to do is make a few accents that will always hit, but then fill in the in-between with various lower probabilities, and that way you get a whole bunch of different kinds of rhythmic patterns that are somewhat related because of the triggers that are always there, but that are also constantly changing. So let's get that to trigger AKEMIE'S. Okay, and let's just find a tempo that we like. Go with that. And now I'm just gonna do something I've really been enjoying lately, which is using the Quad Pingable LFO to generate a lot of different modulations with AKEMIE'S. So we'll take all 4 channels of that LFO and send them to different parameters of AKEMIE'S. Let's choose speed, algorithm, release 2, and how about waves? So they aren't doing anything yet because I don't have LFOs running. So each of these different channels will send a different low frequency oscillation according to what I tap in. So you can hear it already starting to transform some of AKEMIE'S sound. It's not showing too much because the release times are so low, so let's extend those a bit. That's kind of cool. So now with these modulations happening, I'm just gonna tweak AKEMIE'S knobs to dial into something that I really like. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Now I'm gonna use Variegate again to send some pitch CV to AKEMIE'S. Here I can set a scale. So I'll put root note, let's go minor third, fifth, minor sixth. Let's start with that and see what happens. So now I'll go back to that pitch track and just move these sliders around, get them sending notes that are quantized to those scale notes I just set. That's kind of neat. So now AKEMIE'S, because of these modulations, is sometimes playing pitch sounds and sometimes playing more inharmonic percussion sounds. So we're getting both melody and drums out of it right now. Maybe I'll change, make it lower. See if this is like as more bass line. I kind of like it higher rather than as a bass. I'm gonna see what happens when we add more notes to our scale. And now I'm actually gonna try and set this sequence to randomize. So rather than playing through the pitches that have been set with these sliders in sequence, it's just, as you can see with this light, jumping around between all of the different pitches I've set. So we're just kind of getting this minor scale flavor that AKEMIE'S is playing. So I'm gonna leave that there for now. Let's see how we can support this with other sounds. I'm gonna start by using Basimilus Iteritas Alter, very cool module. Use that to get either a kick drum or maybe a bass, maybe a tuned kick drum. So let's send that to the mixer too. And let's trigger it. Just trying to tune it to the same scale as AKEMIE'S. All right, cool. As you can hear, the BIA will do all different kinds of amazing kick and industrial bass sort of tones. So let's get a pattern we like with it, and maybe also introduce some probabilities. I guess AKEMIE'S TAIKO is feeling a bit dry, so let me try sending it through reverb first. That's a little IntelliGel 1U module. Yeah, that's cooler. Now we're feeling spacey. Next up, just to anchor our beat, I'm gonna put a snare drum on 2 and 4. Classic snare pattern. And I'm using Mutable Instruments Peaks for that snare drum. I'm feeling like we could go a little faster on this beat too. Let's up the tempo. Alright, let's finish up our drum kit with some hi-hats and then we'll do some other melodic stuff. So something I like to do, again, making a probabilistic pattern with variegate, kind of randomly triggering triggers. The mutant hi-hats here, let's send that to the Slob Unicursal. Sick. So now I've got a hi-hat pattern that's never quite the same. And something I like to do is send random sample and hold information from this IntelliGel noise tools. Send that to modulate the length of the hi-hats. We gotta speed up the rate that it's sampling new values. Actually, I don't know why I'm using the slew output. Let's just get this hold output so the values are instantly changing. That's a trick I really love to just liven up the way that hi-hats sound. Alright, just for fun, maybe we can modulate AKEMIE'S even more. Sometimes it's a delicate balance to strike. You don't want it to go too crazy, but I'm just gonna get these two channels of math cycling and see what that does if we use them on other parameters of Taiko. I actually like what that's done. It's a little more variation, and I've dialed it into taste a bit, but it's the right kind of variation. It doesn't make things more chaotic. So I think I'm gonna leave that here. I know there are a lot of modules in the case right now that I have left unused, but I do feel like this video might be getting on the long side, and I already really like this patch. I hope that gives you a bit more of an idea of a really quick way that I might approach patching something up without a whole lot of a plan going into it, and with the pressure of the cameras rolling and needing to make decisions really quickly and try new stuff out really quickly. So a big thank you to Matthew at ALM for sending these modules over. I'll put his link in the description. I'm very stoked to have added these to my modular setup. If you're new to my channel, I explore all kinds of weird music stuff all the time, so I hope you'll subscribe, and I would love to hear your thoughts in a comment below. Until next time.